Hello and welcome to my little guide on how I captured the flag in this integrity challenge. This is going to be a bit of a lengthy guide because I'm going to be briefly explaining how this application works and what it does, and then I'll go over my methodology of identifying an endpoint that looks interesting, um, and the clues that were kind of found along the way. And of course, at the end, we're going to actually capture the flag and demonstrate the bug. So, without any further delay, let's get started. This is just the first page that you'll land on. There's a simple register page, nothing too crazy. I already have my account set up, so that's good. I will briefly go over this little text over here. Most importantly, we know how the flag format looks like. There's some mentions of what not to do, like denial of service, brute force, and etc. All those types of attacks. Another important tidbit of information is this over here. It says a protected report contains the flag. Essentially, it's just a report generator for software package compatibility. And there's another bit of a text that's kind of a hint as well. We need to understand the trust boundaries of the application. This kind of suggests some kind of a broken access bug class, so it's good to keep that in mind. And obviously, we're not supposed to be modifying registry data or attacking underlying infrastructure. Cool. Let me log in and let's explore the application. So first things first, I have my namespace, and in my namespace there are packages, as you can see over here. There's compat sample, hello world, and legacy adapter. Now those are all private, so they're exclusive to me, and as you can see I already have this report created with legacy adapter. I'm just gonna open it real quick. There's like a version, there is a computed hash of my report, and there's a release note for it, which says historical ingestion retains the initial package declaration. Report rendering uses reconstructed manifest data. This also slightly indicates that rendering data for a report could be an interesting thing to explore in this application. So I'll keep that in mind as well. Let's go next. There is this archive. Another important info is this right here. Platform maintained scope core. So scope in this sense kind of like means the same thing as namespace. And if we go through the other tabs, you can see some more packages that you can use to generate reports. If you were to actually go through and try and generate a report using these packages, your report would show up here, but the status would be something like not found. And if you were to actually open it, there wouldn't be any meaningful information here. That kind of suggests that there are packages, for example, like security notes, which is a restricted, and remember the previous little hint about a protected report that we are meant to access. So this is kind of like the first aha moment. We need to try and maybe access the data that's actually in security notes, but we by default shouldn't be able to access it. Let's go next. So we got compatibility ledgers. A couple of them mention version numbers, which could indicate something for us. Maybe not really sure. And finally, we got a endpoint where we can actually write some data to. There is a scope, which, as I said before, is kind of interchangeable with your namespace. We can confirm the existence of a scope called core. If you were to try and generate a report over here in the studio, and for example, just in UI, you cannot edit this text. But if you were to intercept the request and modify the scope, uh, most likely than not, the server would just reject the request with like 400 response. So now the question is, what next? Next thing we can do is try and run this application flow. Preview manifest, request approval. It generated a little hash string for us, some ID, and there's a timer before our request expires. So the last and only left thing to do is just to run this pre-flight, and I've created this report. And it says started package, yada yada, for hello world. Let's actually go through our proxy and see what actually happened in kind of in the background. Right, this is the first post request that we sent just now when we clicked on the preview manifest with all this data set in. And then post data, there is the manifest, but it's in a base64 string, which I'm going to convert real quick and get over here so we can have some syntax highlighting as well. Okay, so this is the actual data being sent. We got scope. Inside of a package, we have name of the package, its version, some metadata, and operation. When I was testing this endpoint and all the subsequent endpoints, like the request and pre-flight, a lot of the times I would cause an error. And I'll tell you right now, the preview endpoint kind of is not meaningful to us. We only kind of care about the request approval and then run pre-flight, because this is where it actually signs your post data. And then on run pre-flight, that's when your report actually gets created. So let's go back and continue with analyzing the flow in HTTP. So we know this is sent and the server says this is valid, and there's the operation again. Now we send data to sign endpoint, which is the second button. Looks about the same. And yeah, this is the same JSON as we had in the first request. The server says 201 created, and we get back some different response. The SHA 256, this is just basically computed hash from this string after it's base64 decoded. We have a nonce and expires and a signature. This kind of indicates that, at least if we make an assumption that there's some kind of a key on the server, it signs this data, and unless we can somehow leak the key, and the server actually properly checks what's being signed and then sent in the next request, any tampering with this data should result in an error in the next request. There is the last request in the flow, the run pre-flights. And this is basically the data in JSON that we received in last post request is now being used to be sent to the server alongside our actual JSON with the package and etc. And if it's not tampered, then you kind of get just your publication ID and status ready. So we can now check out this publication, and it's here, as we've seen before. Okay, now we understand what the application does, how the data moves, and what kind of happens in the in-between steps, because we should mainly focus on designing and then publicizing the data. The solution to actually targeting the security package, which is right here, yep, the security nodes, is to sort of, after you've been trying to tamper with the post data on sign, let's say you try and maybe change the data type of, let's say, scope, and you try to put in make it a list, possibly, like this. It will get rejected most often if you try to change it into a bool or I don't know, some other data type. The server would kind of be fussy about it. But the thing that I did notice is if you tried something like this and duplicate a key value pair, the server would accept it, but the server would always choose the last entry if there was a duplicate key value pair. So let me show you that. So I need to intercept a request for this approval. And let's do something. If you try and duplicate a key value pair, most likely if you don't do anything crazy in terms of its value, you should get back a 201 response, aka created. So let's try a like hello world. I'm going to copy this whole thing and let's modify the request with this new data with a duplicate key and forward. And the server says 201 created. Sorry, there you go. And let's follow through and actually create this report. And the server, if it's consistent, will make a report for hello world instead of the legacy adapter. So let me follow through with that. The final pre-flight. And basically you just need to send the same manifest. No need to change anything else over here. And yep, we have duplicate keys. Let me apply the change and forward the request. Says 201 again. And just a quick note, if you're getting like 400 errors on like a basic test like this, I'd suggest make a new account because the application can get it some sort of weird state where it just kind of errors out on basically anything that you try. Yeah, there's that. So I'll just forward every subsequent request. And as you can see, the application accepted the duplicate keys and took the last one. Therefore, we can target a different scope, which is core, and we can target the security notes package. And we're going to do that by duplicating a whole JSON object of package instead of just trying to duplicate each individual field over here, because I think that gets rejected outright. Okay, let me now actually demonstrate the bug. Let me make sure my proxy is intercepting, and let's go through the application flow. I'm gonna request approval to sign, and let's modify this request. So we are targeting the protected package, which is the security notes. The version is okay. And let's duplicate this key. Because we know the application will take only the last entry, I'll take this one. But it could be possible that the validation part of the application would only check the first one. So you kind of have a parser differential where this check kind of passes, and then for the other actual data fetch only, the second key kind of gets interpreted. So we can kind of put some arbitrary data in here, which would be a different namespace, aka scope, which is core. And hopefully this confuses the server and we get a authorization bypass. So let me apply this post data, forward the request, says 201 created, that's good. We're going to need to reuse this same payload because this is now signed, and we just need to basically repeat the process, modify this manifest, and as you can see, same request, apply and forward, 201 created, and it says status ready. So let me forward all of those requests. And as you can see, we got the flag over here on security notes in namespace core. Pretty cool. Thanks for watching.